What's going on, guys? It's GBP baby. Welcome back to another video. I hope everybody's doing well, and let's dive straight into things. So first I want to draw our attention to the economic calendar that you can see here to my right, and you'll see that this week is non-farm payroll as we've started the month of March, and we also have high impact news on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. So I am expecting quite a lot of movement, especially towards the end of the month with non-farm payrolls. But yeah, so it's definitely going to be an exciting month, a lot of expansion I'm expecting. And then if I just remove that, you'll see here I have the US dollar index for seasonal tendencies. So if you want to access these seasonal tendencies, do join my Discord server. All the links are in the description. But this is up until 2019, and this is just averages of how dollar tends to perform. So as you can see, if we look at the month of March, you'll see that dollar tends to close lower, which is in line with my bias of wanting to see a down close month. So moving into the month of March, I am anticipating that dollar is going to be able to trade lower. If we pay close attention though, you'll see here how dollar tends to rally at the beginning of March, and then we have a reversal maybe mid-March, and then it expands to the downside and then retraces back into the middle of the range. Generally speaking, remember, this is just a seasonal tendency, so it's not like it's going to play out like this exactly. However, it's nice that it can support our bias in me expecting us to have a down close month. So with all of that taken into account, and us considering the fact that we have non-farm payrolls this week, we do need to take all of this into we can use all of that as confluences to help drive our biases. So first I'm going to get rid of this, and you can see here we're on the monthly, and just to remind us as to where we are currently on the monthly, you can see there's this bearish order block which we've just traded into over the past 3 months. So here, the opening of it, you can see our price has traded into it twice now, once in January, once in February. But if we look at volume, you can see our volume is staying and closing below it. So the fact that we've closed below this level, this opening of the bearish order block, it's saying a lot to me. It's showing me that it's respecting it, because although the wicks are trading into it, you can see that we're turning at this point, suggesting that price is, reacting to it how it should do as a bearish order block. If it wasn't going to turn at it, it'd be likely that we would have seen price close with inside of it. But again, looking at how we closed in February, especially running out January's lows and having a bigger close down close month, I'm expecting price to be able to continue with that kind of movement and expand lower into March, which again is in line with those seasonal tendencies. So yeah, let's mark out a few monthly PD arrays in the discount where I'm anticipating price to trade to. So currently I do have my eyes obviously set on this fair value gap. Whether we reach here this month or not isn't really the concern. The reason I want to bring our attention to this is because we need some kind of drawn liquidity for the month as a whole. So eventually I'd like to think that we can start to see price expand down to here. But one thing we need to remember, that in order for a month to form, it needs to, in order for a candle to form, it needs to create some kind of high and then expand lower and then create the low. So if I just get that the seasonal tendencies up again, you'll see what I mean. So you see how price rallies first and then expands lower. That rallying we need to anticipate, especially since it's so early on in the month. We're entering the week with non-farm payrolls, so we can anticipate that it's possible we might have an up close week maybe this week, and then we get a reversal maybe next week. So things like that I'm all taking into account. And again, it's not that it's necessarily going to go to the book of that kind of delivery, but it's just being aware that these are the tendencies and how it should deliver if we're anticipating this kind of month. So yeah, this is my overall drawn liquidity on a monthly, and then as we drop down to the low time frames, we can start to take a look at where price is at and the highest we'd want to see it trade. So here is the weekly, and you can see we had a massive up close week on the last week of February, retracing back into the range that it created. Very interesting. And then another thing I want to bring our attention to is our current trading range. So if you look at this high and this low, this is our current trading range. Why? Because this is the last significant high it made, and this is the most recent significant low. It ran out stops, and then we had this massive expansion above the previous week's high and has closed above it. So this is our current trading range between this high and this low. And you'll see how we've just gone above this 25% level, which is quite interesting. But there's a tendency in price, and ICT spoke about this, for it to return to the midpoint of its range, which would be here. So moving into this week with non-farm payroll, I'd like to see this as a draw for price. So although my monthly bias is wanting to see price drop down here to the discount, this week I'm happy to see price trade up into this midpoint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that delineated like so. I'm going to make this red. We'll make it dashed, and we can put weekly trading range midpoint. But yeah, if you study price, you'll see how price always tends to return to, it's what we call equilibrium. Like, it's not unusual to see price return to it. So that's why I'm anticipating that price can get up there, and that gives us a nice draw for where, you know, for price to get up to. Now again, if we use the same logic we just used, for it to get up here, it obviously needs to create some kind of low first. So we might find that Monday and Tuesday drops on dollar, and then we see the expansion moving into Friday to try and reach this target. I'm not going to get too specific because, you know, it's Sunday still, and I don't like to talk too much on Sundays, but generally speaking, I'm looking at this level to get traded to, and then once it reaches there, I'd want to see a reversal. Again, whether that reversal happens this week or next week isn't the point. It's just, this is where I'm anticipating price want to trade up to, moving over the next few days and into the new week. Is there anything else on the weekly that I want to pay attention to? This is now technically a bullish order block, but I doubt price is going to want to return all the way back down to the opening of it. So I think once we drop down to the lower time frames, we'll be able to identify potential PD arrays. In fact, let's get this marked out again. This 25% level may still be significant because the fact that we're above it, we might find that there's some what do you call it now? We might find that there's some bullish PD arrays on the lower time frames that are forming around this 25% level that price may want to tap into to then trade on higher. So let's make this a solid line because we're expecting this to provide support, and then we can put weekly trading range 25% level. Like so. And by the way, guys, I am expecting this to be quite a long video, so make sure you've got your snacks, make sure you're comfortable, and don't forget to hit the like button. So let's go down to the daily, and you can see here's that beautiful expansion I was on about from last week. So you can see Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we expanded very aggressively higher, running out buy stops here and here, and closing above it. So this is a bearish order block, but look what happened, we traded through it. So this should now act as a bullish order block, as in if price is to return down to it. And then where are we going to? This weekly trading range midpoint, because I'm expecting us to return to the midpoint of the range to create that high of the month, assuming that, you know, dollar is going to close lower this month. So you can see I'm starting to build a theory. I'm starting to build a theory around what I want to see price do. And then obviously as price, so if we move into the next day and we find that price finds support here and it does actually turn there, you can see how that's going along with our narrative, and then we can comfortably trade based on those concepts. So let's take a look at the daily. The 4 hour is the lowest I'm going because it's Sunday. But are there any kind of PD arrays that I can see immediately that is catching my eye? There's a imbalance right here, volume imbalance. So price may want to aim to try and fill that. So let's get that marked out, make it this pretty blue, and we can put a daily volume imbalance. So I'm happy to see that get filled or traded through. Moving into this week. And it is just going to be a matter of, you know, following the week along before I start thinking about non-farm payroll, but I don't suggest trading non-farm payroll in general. And then again, this I'd like to see it act as support, but let's go to the 4 hour and take a closer look. And you can see again, the last up close candle here is going to be the breaker. So we've got a low, a high, a lower low, and expansion. So this up close candle right here, but I'm more attracted to this one because there's a lot of volume in it. I'd like to think it can provide support for price, and you can see that's in line with that 25% level. So you see what I mean, how we've gone from the higher time frames, identified PD arrays, came right down to the 4 hour, and we've seen the PD arrays that align with that theory and that concept. Now we have an idea of how we want to see price play out, and if it trades to it, then based off that we can, you know, make our positions if it gets to that level, we can make our trades based off that theory. So here's that up close candle. I'm going to drag this out. I'm going to make it black. And then you can also see there's a volume imbalance there as well, which has been traded through on the upside here. So here's a bit more specific, and it's also perfectly lined up with that blue level. So moving into Monday and Tuesday, I do want to see if price can work its way down to potentially create a low, and then I'd want to see a reversal maybe midweek moving into Wednesday or Thursday. But again, make sure to turn on post notifications to follow along. Here's the hourly. There's not really much here I want to speak about. Again, it's Sunday, the markets are about to open, and there's been multiple times when I've recorded a video, the market's literally open and it goes, it does its thing. But generally speaking, that's my bias on dollar. I want to see us reach up here. And again, if this happens, if we get up there before, say, Wednesday or Thursday morning, if we get up there before then I'd expect non-farm payroll to reverse at it. But if we're not there and non-farm payroll hasn't hit, then I'd expect us to try and reach for that. So let's head on to GBP USD. Like so. And you'll see I'm also looking at trading ranges here, but let's just start from the top. We'll go to the monthly. And similarly, obviously, if I want to see a down close month on dollar, then I want to see an up close month on pound. So here's the fair value gap in the premium that I want to see pound trade to. And then here's the bullish order block, which is also formed. So this open of that bullish order block should be very sensitive because it's a bullish order block on a monthly level. We had a massive month in February, and you can see how aggressively we've closed above that bullish order block now with quite a stretch as well. So I'm looking at this monthly level now to provide support. I don't really want to see price trade any lower than that. Lowest would be 50%, which is what we call mean threshold. And as we drop down to the lower time frames, we can study that a little bit further. But generally speaking, I'm looking for that opening to be traded to. So I'll just put monthly mean threshold. How come that's not typing? Am I tripping? There it is. We'll make that black, like so. And then let's go down to, actually, similarly, again, we do have a trading range, but I'll mark the trading range out on the weekly. And as I was saying, so although we want to see price trade up into here on a monthly level, we need to create some kind of low. And if we know that the seasonal tendency on dollar is to trade higher at the beginning of the month, then we want to see pound obviously drop. And this has now given us a range where we can anticipate price to want to drop. So this is supportive of our bias. So we want to go into this week with the expectation that we may have a down close week, meaning that we want to create some kind of high and then expand lower to try and trade either into the monthly mean threshold or into that bullish order block open I was talking about. And then I'd want to see a reversal occur. Now there's no PD arrays here that are standing out to me, so I am going to drop down to the next time frame. There is this bullish order block which is in the middle, so let's get that marked out. We know this is on the weekly level now. But again, I don't know specifically where it's going to get to. Obviously depends on, delivery, but we have targets, so we can build our trades based off that in the week. And then again, let's say if we're not down here and non-farm payroll hasn't hit yet, then I'm expecting us to trade down here. If we trade here first, and then, we still got time before non-farm payroll, I'd expect it to reverse at these points. Now I have got 3 lines here, and it does look confusing. It's like, which one? But again, it's only Sunday. We need to see how price delivers, because it's very possible that Monday goes crazy, because we do have high impact news, remember, on Monday. So it could be that, price drops straight down there straight away, and then we've got to rethink everything. So that's just something to consider. But let's go down to the daily, and you can see how heavily bearish we are right now. We have a nice breaker here, high, low, higher, high. So I'm looking at this low, which is what we call the breaker low, for maybe create the high moving into the daily. I'd like to see the price tap into that and then find resistance and trade on lower. I want to see this fair value gap left open until we've traded down to here. So I'll say that again and make things a bit more clear, because this is getting confusing. So let's zoom in. So this is the breaker low, because we have a high, a low, a high, a high, displacement to the downside. And then this I'd want to see get left open, because that shows bearishness, and that would then act as what we call a breakaway gap. Now again, I'll probably speak more on this tomorrow depending on how price delivers, but my point is, if this stays open, that says to me that it is likely that price is going to want to trade down into this range. To help support that further is this massive fair value gap on a daily. So there's reason for price to go down there. There's a whole imbalance from this high to this low. There's only been upside delivery, so it'd be nice to see that get traded through on the downside. So I'll be looking for that. And again, this is that bullish order block from the monthly, which should be sensitive to price. And then maybe, we might even fill the fair value gap completely. So I'm going to get rid of this level just because it doesn't seem very viable right now. I'm going to get rid of this level as well, and really I'm just paying close attention to this monthly bullish order block. And also there's a fair value gap, as we know, so let's just get that marked out. I would drag it out, but I don't want to take up too much space on the charts, but we know that this is where the fair value gap is. So let's go down to the 4 hour, and you can see there's a low right here, and there's a bullish order block within that fair value gap. So you can see again how PD arrays are starting to stack on one another. Now I'm going to stay at this time frame. I'm not going to go any lower, so make sure again turn on post notifications, because tomorrow I will be in the hourly and the 15-minute to really look at price, but mainly tomorrow I'm paying close attention to this to see if it can get left open. That would be ideal. Again, break a low, last down close candle, high, low, higher, high, displacement. So if price can tap into that, it would be nice to see if we can reverse on the back of it. Relative equal lows here, 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 and run to get down into those lows. And that would obviously be in line with dollar, trading on higher up into our premium, which I was talking about. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting start to the week. And I know that sometimes, especially weeks off non-farm payroll, Mondays can run crazy. But those are what I have my eyes set on and where I'd be expecting price to want to be turning, etc. So now let's finish up on Euro USD. Actually, before I do that, let's look at the current trading range. I've got to do that. If we go to the daily, our current trading, actually let's go to the weekly. Our current trading range is between this low and this high. And similarly, that 50% level, just like what we identified on dollar, is the discount which I'd expect price to want to draw down towards. Now, it doesn't have to get exactly to it, but my point is it's our draw, because we assume that price is going to return to equilibrium before it wants to continue. So it's nice to see that that lines up. Look how perfectly that lines up with the low of that 4 hour fair value gap. Or was it a daily fair value gap? That daily fair value gap right there. So there's no reason for me to expect price not to want to try and get down there. Now let's finish up on Euro USD. How long have we been going? 17 minutes. We'll go to the monthly. And similarly, remember dollar, we're expecting a down close month because we want to see this get traded towards. Euro, we want to see an up close month where we want to see this trade towards this. And I really want to emphasize towards, like it doesn't need to fill it. It's not the end of the world if it doesn't, but we need some kind of draw. We need some kind of direction, otherwise we can't trade at all. And then again, if it's going to get up there, we need to create some kind of low. So I'm expecting the low to be created somewhere in this range. Now don't get me wrong, I'm looking at Euro now and it looks disgusting, but if we look at this fair value gap on the monthly, you can see our price is respecting that 25% level, which I do like the look of. When price respects 25% levels like this, it suggests heavy bullishness because it's failing to get to the 50% level. But do mind that the wicks have gotten down there already. So let's go to the weekly. Again, Euro's not the cleanest of price action. I'm hating this right now. But again, let's look at the trading range. Low, high. And we're already at that 50% level. So this is where, it suggests that Euro might be a little bit weaker, or we might find that Euro's consolidating during this period, whilst we might find more movement on GBP. Obviously, we're going to have to wait and see. But we've already traded into this bullish order block on Euro. So any kind of, discount trading that we're seeing Euro do, it may struggle, and ideally it does, because that again would support our bias of expecting a large expansion later on in the month or week to try and get up above these relative equal highs and towards our original bullish target. But let's go to the daily. Lovely fair value gap up here, but we also have a breaker, high, low, higher, high, last down close candle. So price may want to tap into that and then trade on maybe potentially a little bit deeper. We have an inversion fair value gap right here. So I'm happy for price to trade down and maybe create the low there with the anticipation that that will act as a bullish fair value gap from a daily level. And then again, these relative equal highs, they're not going to leave this untouched. But whether we trade up to that this week or next, or at the end of the month, I don't know. But my point is, this is looking way too smooth and way too clean for them to leave. So that's supportive of our idea that we want to see price draw up there eventually. but let's continue with this week. If we're expecting a down close week, then we want to see some kind of rally, and there's a fair value gap and a breaker to support that right here. Let's go to the 4 hour. So we might find that euro rallies a little bit at the beginning of the week, maybe into Tuesday or even just Monday. Takes out these highs. Here's the last down close candle. Let's draw that out actually. Let's take a look. So I'm happy for price to trade up into here, and you'll see there's a fair value gap just above that. Similarly to what I was saying on GBP, if this can stay open, if that fair value gap, this is on a daily level though, if that fair value gap can stay open, the same thing occurs here, as in if this 4 hour fair value gap between this low and this high can stay open, that will be ideal for me because it will show bearishness, and then that will support our expectation of euro being able to reach down into the discount. Now I don't see any direct fair value gap or significant low to trade to on these time frames. We may have to drop down a few, but we know that this is an inversion fair value gap, so this is a point, inversion fair value gap from the daily, so this is a point which it may want to turn if it assuming we can get down there. But other than that, moving in tomorrow, I'm happy to see us rally, but then I want to see us pull back, run out these lows, and again just another reversal in the discount, just depending on where. So that's going to be everything, guys. Don't forget to drop a like, drop a comment, smash subscribe, join the mailing list, join me over on Discord, turn on post notifications. You don't want to miss out this week, especially with non-farm payroll. And yeah, I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace.